everyone, Steve Crosby here. Welcome to Monday Morning Musing. On this episode of Monday Morning Musing, I want to talk about a very broad topic, and that is the topic of the love of God. In the days that we're in, for the folks who have had a very bad experience with Christians or in organized Christian religion, there's much talk about the love of God and the importance of the love of God. Obviously, it's a topic that cannot be exhausted and it can't be overemphasized enough. However, the problem is when we start to project our society's values, my emotional needs into what we think the love of God is. And for many, the love of God has become so sentimentalized and so romanticized and so adapted to our culture that it's lost all biblical framework of reference, and the love of God becomes something. This is, you're just the kind of person who never upsets anybody, and you're gentle and you're kind, and you just say nice things, and you have a certain demeanor, and that makes you a loving person. I just want to give you two examples from the scriptures that we need to think about when we start talking about the love of God this and the love of God that. The first one in Luke 24. I actually had somebody walk out on me on this one. She actually said, my Jesus isn't that way. In Luke 24, two of the Lord's disciples, this is an important part of the story, are on the road. They're his followers. They've seen the crucifixion and they're talking about the things that have happened. And the resurrected Jesus comes by. Now think about this. The person who's about to say this is not only incarnate love, he is the resurrected God-man manifesting incarnate love. And he starts talking to them and he says, starts opening the prophets to them. But then he says this, King James, you fools and slow of understanding. The word is idiotes, from which we get idiots. He calls them idiots. You idiots and slow to understanding. That word, idiotes, it means not just that you don't get it. It means that you have a moral culpability in your ignorance. That is, that you are morally responsible for your ignorance. It was an insult. It would be like somebody in our day coming up and say something like this, and it's, of course, this is an offensive term. You retards. You, some other mild profanity. Saints. How does that fit into your definition of what the love of God is like? Because here is the resurrected, incarnate love of God calling people names. That is just so offensive to us. But somehow that is included in the love of God. So that whatever the love of God means, it can't exclude being frank and direct. And that's what people that he loved, that were his disciples. Another example. Who wrote 1 Corinthians 13, the love passage? Love is patient, love is kind. Paul did. The same apostle who wrote to Christian brothers and Christian leadership in another church, the Jerusalem church, he wrote this: you need to go all castrate yourselves. Go cut it off. That would be so offensive to us in two categories. A, because of the sexuality of it and the directness of it. If I came to your church or your fellowship and I started this sermon by saying, you idiots, you morons, you fools, why don't you go castrate yourself? Would you write on Facebook how loving I'd been during that service with you, and how kind I've been in that service with you? No. That's because we have culturally emasculated what the love of God really is. We've adapted it to white Anglo-Saxon, Northern European culture, North American culture. So when you start talking about the love of God, don't project all those cultural things in it. And you and I, we have to wrestle with examples like I just gave you. The author of the 1 Corinthians 13 passage, what is he now? Is he a hypocrite? Does he not know? Does he not even follow his own instructions? You may have to go there. But it comes tougher with Jesus. Name-calling Jesus. Insult-throwing Jesus. Well, it hurt my feelings. You know what? That doesn't exist in Jesus' world. So, let's not just throw the term the love of God around so casually, and let's not use cultural definitions to marginalize legitimate expressions in the bandwidth of kingdom love. And that's what he said. See you next time.